Hey, what's up, everyone? Let's go over my trades from Thursday and Friday. Uh, this last week was just very hard for me mentally. I was extremely tired all week. My execution was horrible. The market did give some great opportunities. I just didn't capitalize on it, and I had one of the worst weeks I have had since I started this channel. But one of the worst weeks I had in a long time. But let's just go over the trades from Thursday and Friday. So on FSLR, I took this for opening range breakout. I got long at 83.90. Uh, and then I ended up killing this trade because I wanted my entry around closer to 83.50, and being up 40 cents above where I want to get in at caused me to doubt this trade and lose confidence. So this thing ended up coming back. I ended up selling it, and then it found some support around the opening range high, and this thing just bounced off of that and took off. So I tried to get in again at 84.19, and then I just ended up killing it at 84.24 because I felt like I was chasing it. And this thing wasn't trading the cleanest, and it just cost me to not to have the confidence in this trade. But there was no reason for me to take this off. Even with the slippage, we still had a big window up, and we never closed below the opening range low. So I should at least gave it time to see if we were to do that. So my execution on this was horrible. Both of these trades, and then later on in the day, I went to short this. I wanted to short this below the 20, but accidentally ended up uh, going long at 86.81, and then I took it off at 86.50, and uh, then I flipped it short, and then I ended up taking it off at 86.50 again. So this was just a bunch of nonsense. Accidentally going long when I tried to short, and then trying to flip it, then not letting it play out. My execution just was horrible on this day, and you will see continue throughout the this recap. You will see that my execution last week was just not on point. But after that, I jumped on uh, MTCH. This thing had low volume, and I ended up taking this on an opening range break once we broke over to 20. The spread on this was pretty massive. Probably should have stayed away from it, but I did get long at 134. I was able to get, I think it was 134 40, and I was able to get a cover at 135.44, 136.44. And then I ended up getting stopped out on my break even at 134.15. So I did get a little bit of slippage on this because I believe my entry was at 134.44. And I could just tell that by how these are pretty much the exact same. So I was being very mechanical. And then got some slippage on my stop out. And then I tried to short this once we lost 100. Uh, Again, this was good execution, but this was not. I took this on a break of the 100, and this late in the day, I really need to wait for confirmation. It did confirm, but where I entered at was not the right entry. And this thing turned around and ended up bouncing, and I had to take it off. And once we claimed over the back over all these moving averages, and we made a new high, was where I took it off at. I just double clicked and flipped it long. So you can see I shorted at 132. Then I stopped out at 135. Then I flipped it and went long at 135 and got my first cover at 136, and then stopped out break even at 135 again. But One thing on this, I did give this too much room. I shouldn't allowed it to have all this room. Oh, especially since we was taking this based off the 100. Once we claimed over the 100 and made a new high, uh, I should have took it off then. So once again, this was just poor execution. Where I flipped it and got long at was good execution, but this stock you can see just had low volume, so I should have really just stayed away from it at that point. But then after that trade, I took. This is where things really started to go bad on QCOM. This wasn't even on my watch list. Uh, the float on QCOM is just too high. Uh, for that meets that does just doesn't meet my criteria. But I jumped on this just because I heard Ed say he was taking it, and I ended up following him, which is not a good thing because I need to be an independent trader. I know I have a lot of faith in Ed with him being my mentor, but I need to really trade stocks that fit my criteria. But I ended up getting short on QCOM at 146.23. Then I got stopped out at 147.33. And then later on, this thing just played around, and I tried to short it uh, through the 100 again, which was this is just too late in the day for me to be trying to short anything, and ended up getting short on this one at 145.35, and then stopped out at 146.37. So this was another poor execution trade. Really just not trading stocks in my wheelhouse and trying to be something that I'm not, and it ended up biting me. So I just really need to drill home to me that if it does not fit my criteria, stay away from it and have the discipline to stay away from it when I say I am. But then I took another trade. Uh, this was Baba, which is way out of my price range. Was I just wasn't trading within myself. I know Ed earlier was taking this for all day hold. If I was to take this, it should have been up here on the break, or either waiting for confirmation. So I even chased this along with this not being in my price range. I ended up chasing it, and this thing ended up bouncing and ended up hitting taking a big loss on it. But I got short at 280, and I got stopped out at 283. But Baba just too expensive for me. Does not meet my criteria. I just saw people in the chat room saying they were making money on this thing, and I just didn't want to miss out, so I hurried up and jumped in. I know Ed said it had a window down to about 275, so all I was just thinking about is the money I can make, and I was already red on the day, so I was like, this could get me back to green, and greed took over, fear of missing out took over, and I just didn't trade my strategy and trade stocks that fit my criteria. So this was just another horrible execution and just trading stocks that's trading outside of myself. But then I ended up taking PTON, which this was the only good executed trade that I took the whole day. I took PTON, and only one of these were great execution. Got long on PTON at 120.98. Took profit up at 121.98. This thing pulled back. I ended up adding, which is not part of my strategy. I just was trying to make back some of the money that I had already lost. So I ended up adding back what I sold at 121. I believe 121.25 or something around there. And then got my first cover up at 122.25. And then I ended up stopping out back at break even at 121.56. But had I not added back on this pullback, my average would have still been down here at 120.98. And you can see this thing just made a massive move. My original plan on this was to take profit up at 121.98, and then again at 123 around the opening range high, and then the rest was just I was gonna just hold it. But once again, did not stick to my trade plan, so that's poor execution. And I really cut this trade short when I could have made a lot more profit on it. Um, I felt like the entry on this and the setup was a good on execution, but I want to have to give myself a fail because adding was not part of my plan. I was just letting greed take over, and once again, just trading outside myself. But this day, I just really over traded. Took a picture of the tickets, and this is way too many tickets. Like, you never would see me with this many tickets. I just was really all over the place, and my execution was horrible Thursday. But then going into Friday, uh, I took a run for a short at 57.60. This thing was on short sale restriction, so I should have just stayed away from this. But ended up getting stopped out at uh, 58.60, and then I did fat finger this, and I accidentally added to my position when I stopped out. So you can see I shorted out 57.60, then I got out at 58.60, accidentally added right back long at 58.60, which actually probably would have worked out, but it just wasn't part of my strategy to go long into all this resistance. And then I ended up taking it off at 58.05. So this was just another I won't say it was poor execution because I did wait for the setup. We got to close underneath the red to green and the 200. That's where I got my entry based off of. And then as this thing pushed up, I just got stopped out on max loss stop. But I think what happened was uh, this high of this candle that closed back above all this was just a couple of cents away from my max loss. And I think I took it off manually and I still had my stop order out, which caused me to flip it long. And then once that happened, I ended up just taking it back off. And that was a red trade. And my last trade was this PTON. I caught this on a pullback to the 9. Once again, this is not my strategy, so I'm going to have to give myself an F on execution. I usually trade outside the channels and not in the channel. I believe I added on this just because I heard Ed added on this. And I was just really upset that I missed this massive move. I just hesitated on the entry. I didn't like how this first candle was moving, and I hesitated on this entry, and this thing made a great move. And when it pulled back, I just wanted to get some of the moves as I was watching it. I was able to get some. I got long at 130.19. I got some off at 131 and took some more at 132. And then this thing ended up pulling back. And once we confirmed over uh, this high, which was no longer even the channel, I don't even know why I had this still marked. But basically, we pulled back and when we made a new high of what I thought was the channel high, me just not being totally focused. Uh, I got long again, and this thing ended up stopping me out. So I got long at 131.74, and then it stopped me out at 130.30, uh, which ended up turning this trade red. At least I would have made some profit on this. But once again, just poor execution. And you see that all week my execution was just horrible. So extremely disappointed in myself this week. Like I said, this is one of the biggest red weeks I had in a long time. And it's all because of me my execution just wasn't on point. The market, I can't blame it on the market because the market was giving me opportunities and I just wasn't nailing them. But next week we're just gonna well tomorrow I'm just gonna try to erase this out of my mind and come into the market and just trade one day at a time and just only focus on executing. I'm not gonna try to worry about the money that I lost this week and trying to make it back. I'm just gonna solely focus on execution. And if I execute all week, then I'm going to consider that a good week and not if I make money or not. But thank you guys for checking in with me, and I'll catch you in the next one.